Hey guys, how's it going? So, today's review is going to be on the Gradient. Boom. And I have to say, it's a pretty stellar yo-yo. Okay, there are no more puns in this video, I promise. It's all downhill from here. Like a downward gradient. Ah! So, the Gradient is the signature yo-yo of Graham Stella. He's a player sponsored by One Drop, and you may know him from some of the hilarious MC stuff he does. So he MC'd the US Nationals, and he also MC'd MA States while I was there. He actually looked up how far Australia was from Massachusetts while I was on stage. Yeah, props to him. Anyway, if you want to go check out some of his tricks and actions with the Gradient, you can go check that out there. And I'm pretty sure he's got an Instagram account, so yeah, go check that out there as well. So yeah, that's a brief intro to the Gradient. It's basically a very angular metal yo-yo that I got because it really reminded me of the Irony JPX. But anyway, let's have a look at the specification. Diameter, 56.24mm. Width, 44.35mm. Gap width, 4.30mm. Weight, 66 grams. Bearing, it comes with a 10 ball. And the response is One Drop flow groove response. So this is a close-up look of the Gradient. The construction of the Gradient is as of so. I'm not 100% sure as to what the grade of aluminum is used for the Gradient, but considering it's $70, I'm guessing it's the low grade 6061 aluminium, but don't quote me on that. That's just an assumption considering of where the Gradient lies in its price range. As you can see here, it's got these side effects on the side here like so, right? And these give the yo-yo a very, it's kind of like a One Drop trademark, and it gives the yo-yo a very distinct weight distribution. So that's always a plus. If I unscrew this perfectly tuned yo-yo, that was like 10 out of 10 smoothness, you would see that it has a axle, as you can see there, that's connected to the side effect. And it also has a 10 ball bearing. So as you can see here, I'm running a flat bearing at the moment, and you may be saying, oh, why are you running a flat bearing? Don't you recommend, always having a centering bearing of some sort? And that is true, but I don't use the Gradient for competition, and I feel as if the Gradient is just a lot smoother with this 10 ball. So as you can see there, super smooth bearing, spins for a super long time, and the only gripe is that, well, basically it doesn't have any centering technology, but that's irrelevant. This is kind of just a fun yo-yo for my collection. One thing that I'd like to mention, so when I first got the Gradient, it was pretty good, but it vibed, okay? And what I mean by vibe is, it wobbled a little bit, and I could detect some basically some vibration like on my fingertip, right? Now, I'd always tuned yo-yos, but I never tuned yo-yos with side effects, right? Now, basically what you want to do with yo-yos with side effects is you really want to crank it tight, right? Like almost to the point where you think you're gonna break it, right? And if you do that, it'll get the yo-yo smooth, okay? Don't be afraid to thread yo-yos with side effects, because it won't thread, the side effects will just turn. So really crank it if you want it smooth. I had a Crucial 2 bearing in here, but I took it out after I realized I just couldn't get the yo-yo smooth with the bearings. So basically it's on its stock setup with a 10 ball cranked to the tops. So the Gradient weighs in at around 66 grams, which is very average for a yo-yo in this generation. One thing I'd immediately like to point out is that it has a very odd weight distribution, and I'm pretty sure it's because of these side effects. A lot of the weight is kind of like axle centered, and it makes the yo-yo feel pretty stable. In terms of playability, the yo-yo itself is incredibly smooth and incredibly stable, but it does have a few drawbacks that I'd like to mention. So, as I said earlier, I thought that this yo-yo was going to be very similar to the Irony JPX, which was my competition yo-yo for a long time. As you can see here, the shapes are very, very similar, right? But because the distribution of this weight is so different, they are completely different when it comes to playability. So, the gradient is not good for horizontal or speed type tricks. First of all, there's something about the weight distribution that just makes it awful for horizontal. Even though it's really wide, it's actually a solid maybe a millimeter or so wider than the JPX. It's just horrible for horizontal because basically, I'm not sure what it is, it's the weight distribution. It feels weird when I'm throwing it around. It'll die really quickly, and it's not the best yo-yo for horizontal. On top of that, it's also got a very limited spin time. When I'm throwing this yo-yo around, it tends to die a lot faster than a yo-yo with a centering bearing. Now, so the poor spin time could probably be attributed to the fact that I've got a flat bearing in here as opposed to a concave bearing. However, these two yo-yos, this yo-yo comes stock with a centering bearing and this yo-yo comes stock with a flat bearing. So I think it's fair to say that the gradient spin time isn't really the best when you're powering through speedy tricks. It kind of just dies really easily, and because it's so smooth, it's kind of hard to detect when the yo-yo is dying. Generally, I don't think this yo-yo is actually that great for the kind of tricks I did on the JPX. It's more catered towards intricate tech kind of tricks. So as you can see there, some of the stuff that Graham likes to do. I'll show you some of my own intricate tech combos as well, and I feel as if that's what it's suited for. It's suited for very tech-based, normal-based tricks, okay? It doesn't do too well for horizontal, and it doesn't do too well for speedy style tricks. So in summary, the gradient is a unique kind of yo-yo. I bought it because of its similarity to the Irony JPX, but no yo-yos could be any more different. The weight distribution makes it smooth and stable, ideal for those intricate tech kind of tricks that Graham likes to do, which is probably why it was designed for him. But it's not that great for speedy horizontal style tricks, the stuff that I like to do. I'm pretty glad I have this in my collection. It provides kind of like a different kind of vibe to it. Very rarely do I play yo-yos with flat bearings, but the gradient just happens to be one of those throws that just seems to play better with the 10 ball installed. So yeah, in terms of competition, I personally wouldn't use something like the gradient. I'd use something like the Irony. But if you have a lot of like intricate based tech tricks that require a lot of string movement, that need a stable yo-yo, I definitely recommend the gradient because, well, hey, that's what it was designed for. Oh, and one thing I'd finally like to mention, the gradient is priced at around $70–$75, and that's a pretty affordable price. I mean, the price isn't too steep. I guess it's just a pretty nice gradient. Any comments, questions, criticisms, post them down below, and I will see you guys next time.